Bitch. And we're back. Previously on Unhinged. Girl. Oh my God. So, it's been a week. It's been a week, guys. It's been a hell of a week, bitch. Okay, so, this week alone, I talked to Omarosa on the phone. I met April Ryan today. I take the segment for the Hill. The bitch is moving up in the world. Cabinet, we're on our way. We're on to something. You know, it's just been a lot. In my best Jennifer Lewis voice, bitch, is giving black girl magic. And this motherfucker. Okay? No, shout out to Jamal Simmons and everybody over at the Hill. You guys were great today, so hospitable. And I'm just thankful that they asked me to be on. For those of you who don't know the Hill, it's like the website that Washington watches. So it's a very, very big deal, and it definitely shows that people do want to hear from the common man. Ain't nobody got time to be talking to all these pundits and shit. Okay? But it's been crazy. Cabinet, I thank y'all for all of the support. I get a lot of messages, which I'm personally not used to at all. But I am thankful. I am definitely taking the opportunity seriously, but not taking myself seriously, because, bitch, it is social media. But with that being said, it's providing a lot of great opportunities. I just love you guys. I love y'all to pieces. And it's been great. So a lot's been going on. For those of you who have been under a rock, Auntie Riri, Aretha Franklin, has been lying in state. She was put out today. And no shade, but bitch, she is slaying from the graves. First off, bitch, she got the gold-clad casket. That's a statement in itself, bitch. I always say when I get buried, I want to be in a Chanel casket with, like, the print, the quilt. But this bitch is giving gold. And then she got the killer cockroach in the corner, red pumps on. Like, bitch, it's a nasty red pump. I don't know who dressed her, but they said, bitch, we gonna put you out in style, bitch. I mean, the pump is giving points, bitch. And it's 6 inch. It's giving height. Okay? I'm here for it. Patti LaBelle would be jealous as fuck. I know she's gagging right now when she saw that casket and them fucking pumps, bitch. But I love Mother Patti. Anyway. So that happened. It's just been a lot going on. We're going to get into this book. Omarosa, she called me on my lunch break, bitch. Yes, I do work a job. And I was like, you know, she called. I can't disclose everything in the call because, you know, things is happening. But, just know this. Don't ever tell kids, read books, bitch. Read. If you a teacher, encourage your kids to read. If you got kids, encourage them kids to read, them little bastards to read, because if you read, it can open up a lot of possibilities for you, and I'm a testament to that. But that being said, of course, we know Donald is losing his mind. He threatened Google today, basically stating that their search results are rigged and some other bullshit. Bitch, you was scared. He shooketh, bitch. Between this book and all this other shit going on, he shooketh, okay? It's giving impeach teas. But I don't even think they're going to impeach Donald, because ain't nobody got time for all that shit and to be dealing with these protesters, and it's going to be too much. So they're going to let him finish out this term, and then they're going to lock his black ass right on up. Shit, crazy ass. But anyway, we'll talk about Captain Crunch later. We're going to get into this book now. We're going to look at chapter 11, verse 5 in the book of Omarosa, Unhinged. Now, I know that I said we were going to read The Fall, but upon me reading the book, and also to the podcast launching next week, because next week we're going to start April Ryan's book, Under Fire, because it's kind of like a Lil Kim, Foxy Brown moment, like Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, bitch. And I was like, oh, bitch, our book was this. And then what April said, bitch, and then April Ryan is hilarious, by the way. But I want to read this Tackled by My Teammates chapter. And shout out to all of the cabinet members. I see y'all from everywhere, bitch. I'm gagging. But anyway, without further ado. And yes, this is Oprah on the cover of British Vogue. You know, I love my black woman, my sisters. I love y'all to pieces. And I thank y'all for y'all support. We got Solange in the back as usual, bitch. And we about to get into this chapter. Now, Tackled by My Teammates. The first 100 days of most modern presidencies are fast-paced, with the incoming team ready to go, still high from their victory and with the enthusiasm of the majority of Americans behind them. Trump did not receive the majority of the popular vote, and that's a fucking fact. And the victory was tainted by that and Russia interference doubts. The first days of the Trump presidency were defined by chaos and conflict. Not surprisingly, and a blistering pace of executive orders, controversial tweets, and non-stop outrage from Democrats, opening with the largest, most vociferous protest of the digital era. No shade, bitch. We remember that. He was signing papers, bitch. He was bouncing checks all over the place with them executive orders like a motherfucker. We remember that. That was the first 100 days when we was all shook. Trump didn't waste any time dismantling Obama's legacy. Hours after he was sworn in, he signed an executive order aimed at repealing the Affordable Care Act. On day 2, January 21st, I returned to the White House, this time in an SUV. Bitch, she must have came in an Uber the last time. Remember, Betsy DeVos made her ass take an Uber to the education meeting. But anyway, as we were coming down 17th Street, all of a sudden, my vehicle was surrounded by women in pink hats. The first women's march was in full swing. Remember that women's march? Everybody was out. It was like every Iron Woman, hear me roar. Everybody was out. You know, it was crazy. Protesters carried signs that read, Dear GOP and Trump, our pussies are none of your damn business. Black Lives Matter, and keep your hands off our country. The protesters were peaceful. I saw no one who looked hostile. As soon as I took a seat at my desk, I forgot about the crocheted hats and was filled with awe at the magnitude of the responsibility of running the government. What I would do from this desk and beyond it would impact many lives and make a difference for families. My first act as an assistant to the president was to requisition basic equipment and furniture. So, bitch, they got her buying furniture. They sending the bitch to Value City to buy furniture and shit, and she just getting it up. Okay. Everyone was kind of stunned by the utter lack of tools and services we needed to do our jobs. We were already ready and excited to take up the reins of power, but first, we needed to figure out how to turn on the phones. So, bitch, they didn't even know how to turn on the phones. Y'all ain't know how to call Verizon. Verizon ain't have a hookup at the White House. Like, shit, what the fuck is going on? Despite the operational inadequacies, we had to hit the ground running. But we didn't have an organization in place to carry out the ambitious agenda set by the president and his senior advisors, myself included. It was one thing to say, we're going to redo tax code or we need an infrastructure bill. But without the staff to implement those goals, everything was at a standstill. Manpower was severely limited. The thousands of Schedule C staff jobs, remember Schedule C is the low tier motherfuckers that don't nobody really care about, but you can just say that you worked at the White House. Okay. Were supposed to fill during the transition, many of which remain empty to this day, were still vacant. Not having support and operations teams stymied forward movement. Trump started signing executive orders, directives from the president that became law, pending judiciary review. We asked him to be more presidential, and signing executive orders was one way to do it. However, it might as well have been a doodle scribbled on a notepad without the people and logistics in place to implement it. So basically, he was bouncing checks like I said, bitch. He ain't had the manpower to carry out half the shit that he signed. It was all a PR stunt. They got Omarosa calling Sears to get furniture and shit. And they ain't had this together and they just get in office. Meanwhile, Obama and all our dreams just got on that motherfucking helicopter. But that's another story. Later, still on day 2, Trump spoke at the CIA headquarters in Virginia and harped on the inauguration crowd size, saying, "We had a massive field of people. You saw them, packed. I get up this morning, I turn on one of the networks, and they show an empty field. I say, wait a minute. I made a speech. I looked out. The field it looked like 1.5 million people. They showed a field, but there was practically nobody standing there. And they said Donald Trump did not draw well. Liars, fake news." Now, if you recall, when he made this speech at the CIA, like, people was pissed because where he made the speech at about his inauguration was in this wall where all the fallen CIA agents' names or rankings are placed. And so it's like real disrespectful to lie and say, bitch, you had, all these viewers. Like, literally, it was more people watching the season finale of Real Housewives of Atlanta than it was that fucking inauguration. But that's another story for another day. Now, when I was asked about the crowd size, I didn't want to tell him the inaugural committee had made getting tickets for the black community nearly impossible for me and Tucker Davis. There was even talk of charging people to attend. Bitch, he really think he Destiny's Child. First he got him going on tour. Now he got motherfuckers trying to charge tickets. Bitch, you is not, what the fuck is going on? This ain't on the run too, bitch. What is wrong with you? You crazy. I've spoken out in one of the committee meetings saying emphatically that most black people would not attend the inauguration and would definitely not pay to go to the Trump events. No shade, bitch, you wasn't lying. Tucker and I submitted list after list of possible names, with only half of them being approved, as if space was limited. We were frustrated and baffled about the pushback. I could have explained to the president why the attendance at the inauguration was so low, but it wouldn't have made a difference at that point. Instead of a triumphant second day of the Trump presidency, we were drowning in exaggerations, protests, and side-by-side photos of the Washington Mall of Trump's modest inauguration draw of 306,000 next to Obama's 2009 record-breaking 1.8 million crowd. The Women's March massive turnout, at least 500,000 in D.C., 5 million worldwide, rankled him too. So, bitch, the Women's March had more people than him. The Women's March, bitch. The president simply could not stand to be outsized by a bunch of women in pink hats or a black man, especially that black man. Immediately, the comms team gathered to discuss the matter. 20 minutes in, the lights in the room went out, and we couldn't figure out how to turn them back on. Bitch, that's because Obama probably called PECO, PEPCO, BGE, and said, look, bitch, I want the lights cut off today at 3 o'clock, bitch. I wouldn't put it past them, bitch. The Obama administration had installed an energy saving system so that the light switched off after a certain amount of time. I know that's the fuck right. Come through, Obama. So if we were in a meeting that ran longer than 20 minutes, the lights would suddenly go out. Once we found out about that, someone would have to wave a hand in front of the sensors to turn them back on, and we start again. It was so tiresome. We say, just leave them off. Eventually, we got the engineers to come and adjust the timer, but for the first week or so, we were literally and figuratively governing in the dark. So they couldn't figure out how to wave their hand. And imagine Captain Crunch, Omarosa, and his Mickey Mouse, the Rogues Gallery, in a dark-ass room. That's why the motherfucker want to bring Cole back, waving their hands, trying to pick a bitch. You can tell his ass ain't never working housekeeping, bitch. Anyway, now, Sean Spicer, the recently appointed press secretary, after speaking with President Trump in the Oval, came up with the solution. We're going to back him up, he said. If the president says there were 1.5 million people, we'll reinforce that. Now, see, I'm going to pause right here. Now, Sean Spicer ass went on the Emmys and shit, and they welcomed his ass with open arms. It's like, oh my God, he the one that was coming up with line for his ass. Now I'm like, Sean, I'm looking at you crazy. Because I'm thinking your dumb ass getting bullied and shit whole time, at least according to Omarosa. Bitch, you was the one that was in on the lies. The fuck wrong with you? On day 2, January 21st, I attended Sean Spicer's first official press briefing. I sat next to Stephanie Grisham, Hope Hicks, Kellyanne Conway, Skeletor, and Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Aunt Lydia from The Handmaid's Tale. We looked on as Sean declared, the largest audience to ever witness an inauguration, period, both in person and around the globe. God. It was hard to keep a straight face as Sean proceeded to lie to the American public and then refused to take questions from the press. Kellyanne Conway went on Meet the Press the next day. Chuck Todd asked her why at Sean Spicer's very first press briefing, he said an easily verifiable falsehood to the American people and whether lying about something small like this would mean he lied about bigger, more important issues as well. She dug the hole 10 times deeper by saying, Sean Spicer gave alternative facts. This is where the alternative facts jargon came into play. Meet the Press. I never forget this because my mother watches Meet the Press, and I watch Meet the Press on Sunday, so I remember when this happened. This is when we got that alternative fact shit. Now, she then pivoted to the failures of Obamacare and the public education system. She also accused Todd of being biased against Trump, setting an adversarial tone with the media from day 3. Okay? Congrats on your appointment to serve as assistant to the president for our 45th president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. What an absolutely historic weekend it will be. The president would like to host you and 4 guests at the White House this Sunday for a small ceremony and private gathering to honor you and your hard work for him and our country. Thank you. Katie Walsh, Deputy Chief of Staff. So basically, they invited Omarosa and her husband to lunch, bitch. Now, on day 4, my mother, the widow who worked 2 jobs and 12 hours a day to feed her 4 children in the Westlake projects, was there to see her daughter sworn in to serve the president at the highest level at the White House. She was joined by my friends Shannon Jackson and Aisha McClendon, who had worked in the Clinton White House with me 20 years ago. My experience of that day was filtered through my mother's eyes and how grateful I was for her for everything she done for me. That I've been able to make her proud didn't scratch the surface of what I hope to do to repay her for her suffering. In our communications meetings, we discussed the number 1 topic of the day, Kellyanne's use of the phrase alternative facts. So basically, Skeletor done fucked shit up, and now they in a pickle. Kellyanne was thrilled that her clip with Chuck Todd had been watched by millions and made headlines in every newspaper in the country. I started to get the feeling that Kellyanne was as passionately engaged with her own media presence as she was with the Trump agenda. And that's no shade, because if you remember, when Kellyanne Conway was just a political correspondent or commentator on CNN, that bitch face was never beat. She always looked more haggard than what she do now. It wasn't giving makeup, bitch. Fast forward, she works in the Trump White House. She wearing ugly-ass Gucci dresses with a terrible caked-on beat. Maybe it's Maybelline. I don't know, but it definitely ain't MAC, bitch. And she's gagging. So I totally believe this. Okay. Now, meanwhile, I was still waiting for tables and chairs and mousetraps. The White House is a very old building, and its longest living residents are mice. Bitch. No wonder Melania want to stay in New York, bitch. I can't do no damn mice. Every time we move furniture, we would see them scurrying into little holes in the historic walls. Ew. Also on day 4, Trump signed an executive order reinstating the global gag rule that banned federal funding to any international health organization that provided abortions or gave out any information to women in need. While he signed this directive about women's access to reproductive health care, he was surrounded by Mike Pence, Jared Kushner, Stephen Miller, Rob Porter, Steve Bannon, and a few other white men in dark suits. This is The Handmaid's Tale, bitch, and you ain't gonna tell me no different. For a man who was all about optics and central casting, it was a disaster because women's issues fell under the umbrella of the OPL, the Office of Public Liaison. I had to field the calls of protests and concerns from women's constituency groups. So basically, bitch, from what I'm reading in this book, Trump was basically throwing Omarosa's ass all the fucked up shit she had to deal with. Girl, if you didn't get the clue by then. Anyway, I told the senior staff, we can't do anything as it relates to women's rights again, ever in this administration, without first engaging women's rights groups, and definitely not with a bunch of men standing behind the president. When I mentioned it, people seemed annoyed that I pointed out Hope's rookie mistakes and Rights' unforced errors, but I felt I had to. No one else was bold enough to say it out loud. Mike Pence's presence was particularly offensive to women's groups. His record of legislating against reproductive health rights is among the most aggressive. During his years in Congress and as the governor of Indiana, he signed 8 laws in less than 4 years to restrict abortions in his state, including the fetal anomaly bills that would have forced providers to cremate or bury fetal remains, forced women to have pre-abortion counseling where they were told that they were destroying human life, and banned women from aborting fetuses that had been diagnosed with physical or mental disabilities and lethal conditions. A federal judge in Indiana later blocked the law from going into effect because it unconstitutionally limited a woman's right to abortion. In Congress, Pence co-sponsored a bill that said hospitals could refuse to give a woman an abortion, even if she would die without receiving one, with the one exception of forcible rape, as if all rape were enforced. No shade. Thankfully, it did not pass. He has legislated to limit women's access to birth control and has found funding for Planned Parenthood. So basically, Mike Pence like, bitch, I don't give a fuck if you're dying. I don't care if you forgot to take your pill. You gonna have this baby and you gonna like it. He's crazy. Shit, if Trump is Darth Vader, bitch, that is Senator Palpatine out this motherfucker. Now, Trump, Pence, and their posse were undoing any hope of connecting with women and minorities. He surrounded himself only with elite, wealthy, white conservative men. I'd agreed to take on an epic responsibility to be the voice of my community and women of color in the White House. And I realized at that moment just how steep my climb was going to be. No shit, Sherlock. On day 6, Trump, January 25th, Trump repeated his false claim that 3 to 5, now it's 3 to 5. 3 to 5 million people cast ballots illegally. He was still litigating the November election and will continue to do so over and over again to this day. He was obsessed with the election, and he was furious when it came out that he lost the popular vote by millions. For his first few months in the White House, Trump kept big charts in his private dining room, in his den, in his study that showed the electoral map color-coded in red and blue. Most of the country was coded red, while the most populous urban centers were coded blue. That's no shade, because a lot of times we think New York and LA run the world, run the country. That's not the case, niece. Flyover country, middle America, the South, that's who make the difference, and that's why we got the president that we got today with them electoral votes. When anyone walked in, he'd point to the chart and talked about the election results. If you walked in the morning, he'd tell the story of his victory with the visual aid of the chart. If you walked in after... So wait a minute, bitch. So imagine going in the White House. Number one, the lights don't work. And he got a chart. And Captain Crunch is in front of the chart, right? Explaining to you how he won the election. This is some shit, bitch. He's crazy. He would get all worked up and get crazed about the fake news reports. I was worried that in his first week in office, he was already cracking under pressure. We all had work to do and things to discuss, but he only wanted to talk about the election. When he tweeted about things like illegally cast ballots, my concern was taken to a higher level, because now his obsession was in the public realm, which meant that we had to deal with it publicly. I believe that if we gave him the right data, he'd talk and tweet about that verified information. When we were in the White House with every resource available to us to get the most accurate data imaginable. For days, I thought there had to be a glitch in the flow of accurate data to him. The correct information was delivered to him in the morning briefing folders, always with headlines from his love-to-hate newspapers, the New York Times and the Washington Post. but he ignored it in favor of unverified info. So they was bringing the bitch, okay, the real information. He just wasn't trying to hear that shit. Now, the question became, was he just making things up, or was his intel coming from outside the White House? We quickly realized that the president, a gluttonous consumer of media, had been going on Twitter and picking things up from disreputable, random sources, taking what he read there as fact and reposting for all the world to see. We needed fact checkers, or at least a filter for the POTUS Twitter folks. So, bitch, basically, he like clickbait, bitch. He just read the title of the article and then post it. The directive came down from ranks that our default position was to back up whatever the president said or tweeted, regardless of its inaccuracy. In fact, much of my days, from the first to the last, were spent strategizing and defending Trump tweets and statements to constituency groups that he may have offended on that particular day. By day 6, I'd established a daily routine. So, all these people that are now fired, okay, they were basically supporting the lie. So they was just going along with whatever he say, and just like, that's it. That's that. What kind of world do we live in, y'all? Like, motherfuckers is crazy. Oh. By day 6, I'd established a daily routine. 7 a.m., get to the White House through the East Gate. 7:30, morning huddle in Sean Spicer's office in the West Wing. 8 o'clock, senior staff meeting in Rice's office with about 30 people. 8:45, breakfast at the White House mess hall. 9 o'clock, the OPL meetings in the EEOB. 11 o'clock, back to Sean's office for daily prep. 1 o'clock, daily press briefing in the James S. Brady press room. 2 o'clock, back to the OTL for calls. 5 o'clock, the OPL staff meeting. 6 o'clock, wrap up meeting in Sean's office. So this bitch got a schedule, bitch. She is punched in. She's punching the clock, okay? Throughout the first 100 days, whenever the president had a listening session in the Roosevelt Room, I was always standing nearby or seated behind him. When he signed an executive order that related to diversity, women, veterans, any OPL group, from truckers to college presidents, I was in the Oval Office or other locations with him. Whenever I took point on an event, for example, going to the Smithsonian during Black History Month, I briefed him at least twice before each one. So in my official capacity, I saw the president 3 to 4 times a week. Okay. As for unscheduled pop-ins, the times when the Oval door was open, he was seated inside. He saw me walking by and called me in. I saw him 2 or 3 additional times per week. That was how I met the Canadian Prime Minister. I just left a meeting in the Roosevelt Room and he yelled, "Hey Omarosa, come meet Justin Trudeau." Now Justin Trudeau is a Canadian Prime Minister. I think we all know that. But he fine as shit and he got sick. So basically he like the Canadian Obama. Most presidents did not do casual pop-ins. They stuck with their schedule. The Clintons were an exception. The culture of that administration was more relaxed. Betty Carey was Clinton's assistant, and she was a come-on-in, open-door type of person. When I was a mid-level staffer there, I could walk in for a meeting or bring my family by to say hello. Perhaps that operational dynamic was too casual, allowing interns passage into the Oval's private areas, for example. Trump was used to how he conducted business in Trump Tower, where he had an open-door policy, and if anyone had a question or needed to talk, you just poked your head into his office. He hadn't made the shift yet to White House protocol. I hadn't made the shift yet either. And whenever he invited me in, I'd go, scheduled or unscheduled. During our unscheduled meetings, the president led the conversation to whatever was on his mind, from the travel bans to Obamacare to what he had for lunch. Donald likes to talk, and he really likes having people around to listen. About once a week, he called me and said, "Have you been avoiding me? I haven't seen you in a while. Check my schedule and come by." Even if I'd seen him the day before. Like, it sounded like he need a good girlfriend, bitches. You one of the girls? Like, what's going on? I think he was lonely and liked seeing a familiar face. I was in a unique position of straddling 2 worlds throughout my year in the White House, working in the communications office in the West Wing and the OPL and the EEOB, running all over the complex from one meeting to another, all day long and deep into the evening. Okay. On day 8, I appeared on The View. Beforehand, Donald prepped me for my interview and told me to go be tough and not to let them push me around. First off, Donald Trump, who are you to be prepping anybody for a goddamn interview, bitch? You can't even prep yourself for a goddamn Twitter message. Fuck out of here. Now, he said, go boardroom, Omarosa, meaning cool, calm, and deadly. We laughed. He said to particularly watch out for Joy Behar, who used to be a friend of his and Melania's, and he had the pictures to prove it. But she turned on me like a snake, he said, because she knew you ain't had no sense, bitch. I asked for and received a briefing from the White House surrogate team and the View producers with a list of topics they wanted to discuss with me. My role in the White House, my first week in office, the Women's March. They invited my fiance John to come sit in the front row for the taping too to talk about our upcoming wedding. Of course, the questions they actually asked were not on the list. Host Joy Behar and Sonny Hostin hammered away at me about tax returns, insults to the disabled, pussy grabbing. Gretchen Carlson, a former Fox anchor, was lovely. She was the only one. Of course, bitch, she on Fox News. What the fuck you think she gonna be mean to you? I batted back the hostility point by point until I noticed the 1-minute warning sign flash. They hadn't acknowledged my fiance at all, who had flown in from Jacksonville, or our upcoming wedding. I broke into the conversation with less than 60 seconds remaining to introduce him and close a contentious segment on something nice, as promised. My closing line went viral. I said about John, I'm so happy that he's here with me, and he brings me such joy. And I hope that you one day can find that kind of joy in your life. Bitch! If you didn't catch that line, bitch, I'm going to read it again. This is the shade. She said, this is Joy Behar she's talking to. I'm so happy that he's here with me. And he brings me such joy. And I hope that you one day can find that kind of joy. Joy. Bitch. I swear to God, bitch. This is the shade. The shade, bitch. And you know what's so crazy? Sidebar. When you talk to Omarosa on the phone, she is the most pleasant, warm breeze, easy voice. The bitch could work in a call center any day, hands down, okay? And the reads just be so damn epic. You know what I'm saying? Like crazy. But anyway, Donald called me the next day before 5 a.m. and said, good job, way to hit back. You still got it. I liked how you went off on Joy. She used to kiss our asses. Now she's anti-Trump. Forget about it. One day, on day 9, the talker of the day fell squarely on my plate. Trump had signed an executive order to ban people from Iraq, Syria, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen to enter the United States for 90 days. That's when we were all really scared. If you recall, a lot of you probably remember that, but so much happens in this news cycle, in this presidency, that you may have forgotten about it by now. But remember when he signed that order and it was like all over the news, like motherfuckers was shook, people with passports, it was a whole thing. Now, the first travel ban dealt with the treatment of minority groups, so it was in my portfolio. It predominantly impacted people of color. In the comms meeting, I argued that the travel ban has set off a panic in Democrats and many Republicans as well, that their worst fears were true, that Trump was a monster, a racist, a persecutor of minorities. I said, it advances the perception that the administration is discriminating against people of color from around the world. Senior staffers counted, well, Muslim is not a race, it's a religion. Assalamu alaikum, bitch. Senior staffers, to my mind, that was even worse. It was a blatant ban of an entire religion. In a senior staff meeting around this time, Stephen Miller ran through a litany of ideas on how to deter immigration, including the tactic of separating children from their parents at the border if they tried to enter the country illegally. Now, this was already planned. So we watching on the news now. They got these kids sleeping in aluminum blankets and shit. But this was planned back when they first did that first travel ban. So they was already going to do this shit. We didn't discuss the pros and cons at that time. It was just one of many ideas on his list. I never thought in a million years that it would ever be implemented. It was the antithesis of who we are as Americans, blah, blah, blah. In these meetings, Mike Pence defended Trump, saying, God is telling me to support the president. God is telling me I'm here to serve. And God must not be telling you, bitch, you are crazy. Okay? Why must we always use religion to explain crimes against humanity? Why? When he'd been tapped for VP, people said that he'd bring a different perspective, a moral, Christian perspective, and speak out for compassion. But the only time he's spoken out with indignation since he'd been chosen as Trump's running mate was when General Michael Flynn lied to him about Russian sanctions. The rollout of the travel ban was poorly coordinated, to say the least. Officers and customs agents at airports had no guidance about how to implement the policy. The melee at airports took some by surprise. Much of our catch-up work centered around the lack of coordination and the lack of messaging to go along with it. We had little or no warning about the details of the ban, which was a ban. Then wasn't, then was again. Throughout the drawn-out travel ban litigation, whataboutism really came to the forefront. What about the fact that Obama put these countries on a list himself? What about Obama's record with deportations of illegal immigrants? In Trump world, the only defense for most situations was whataboutism. Mostly about Obama and Clinton. Bitch, why is she sweating Obama? Why are you worried about what he was doing? Like Niche, you need to pay attention to what you're doing. I reckon that Trump's push for the travel ban and mass deportations was a reaction to Barack Obama's stats on deportations. Donald Trump was trying to, again, one-up President Obama, who was nicknamed Deporter-in-Chief. I didn't know that, bitch. For his skyrocketing millions of deportations. Wow. I'm sure Miller or Homeland Security General Kelly had given him the numbers of how many people Obama deported within the first year, second year, and so forth. Trump wanted to be the crackdown president. He had to deliver on his campaign promises, but he also really wanted to outdo Barack. The entire episode was a sad opening to the presidency, along with being morally reprehensible. I was responsible for organizing White House Black History Month events, and I had been planning to kick off the program the first day of February. Day 12 of the Trump presidency, with a listening session with POTUS and black leaders, I submitted my list of invitees for approval to Ranks, and he slashed it in half. He also removed the names of several black Republicans who had given him problems during his time at the RNC when all of his African-American staffers left in what was called the GOP Black Exodus. Once we finalized and vetted the list, we buttoned down the event and had everything in place. I prepared the materials for the president's briefing book and submitted it the night before. So basically, they ain't want no niggas in the White House for Black History Month. And then he got mad at the niggas in the Republican Party that wasn't for the bullshit and decided to walk out on his ass. So basically he said, ain't none of you niggas having no black history. You can have a dream some goddamn way else and MLK your ass right down to wherever the fuck you came from. Anxious, I went to the Oval Office early for my briefing with the president. I wanted to go over his opening and closing remarks. Keith Schiller, with whom I had a friendship for many years, remember Keith Schiller, y'all? In presidential time, that's an eternity, promised of 10 minutes. In our briefing, Trump's attention was scattered. He was distracted, irritable, and short. Normally, when Donald J. Trump got into one of those moods, you need to give him time and space. But in this case, I could not. I was going over his speech, but he couldn't retain any of the bullet points. I went over them again and again, and what he should say to the press after the event. But he couldn't remember the key points and stumbled over large words. Bitch can't read. Which we scratched out and replaced with simpler terms. Now, we reading this book, and I'm relaying this on a street level. But we regular people, we're not in public office. Okay? Why, if you're the president of the United States, bitch, we got to cut up your food. We got to feed you. We got to give them the short fork, bitch, with the colorful handle. For every goddamn thing. The change in him since his prime was dramatic. Back on season 1 of The Apprentice, there had been a mix-up on one of the episodes where a contestant lost money on a task and they were discussing figures. Donald Trump repeated a lengthy number sequence with no notes in front of him, calculated them in his head in moments, and came to his conclusion that the math-addled contestant should be fired. That was how sharp he used to be. Now, the blade had been dulled. So basically, she's saying, bitch, he got Alzheimer's. Like, he can't remember shit now. Bet you he can remember them Russians ain't fuck with that election, though. For this particular speech, I begged him not to say, what do we have to lose, or to refer to the participants as you people, as he had during the campaign's ministers' meetings. You people is pejorative, I explained to him. He looked puzzled. I said, it's bad. Just don't say it, Albert. She got Google Translate for this dummy. Now, when he practiced the opener, he spoke only in fragments, not complete sentences. When I tried to correct him, he became frustrated and more irritable. I left the Oval Office praying to God that Donald Trump didn't go off script or say something crazy or draw attention away from the fact that it was the first day of Black History Month. He knew I was concerned, and he said, I got it. Don't worry. The blacks love me. The blacks, bitch. For this... As I feared, despite my spoon feeding him short sentences and key points ad nauseum, he went off script and ad-libbed his opening speech, spending time vamping about the election, hating on the opposition party, aka the media, giving a shout out to the coal miners in West Virginia, and saying outright ignorant things like Frederick Douglass is an example of someone who has done an amazing job is being recognized more and more, I notice. It was terrible. He didn't know who Frederick Douglass was, and the press mocked him relentlessly for it. This was the first of many incidents where I spent days working on a project or even to benefit the African American community, move logistical mountains, only to watch Trump destroy all my hard work with a comment or a slur. I called it being tackled by your own teammate. I was trying to run the ball, and he would tackle me with his ignorance. The community would ponder, what exactly is Omarosa doing in there? Trump keeps getting off the rails. She must not be doing her job. If only they knew the struggle. I face keeping Trump from sounding full racist on any given day. Jesus. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Day 13. Fireworks exploded in the White House when the news of an upcoming Time magazine with Steve Bannon on the cover broke. The cover line read, The Great Manipulator. Now, if you recall the Steve Bannon cover, this where Trump was like, bitch, it's only one star of this show. I'm not feeling it. And he was like, this is when Bannon's about to make his exit. So, Donald lost his mind over this cover. He raged at Bannon at high volume in a room full of people yelling. He thinks he's a manipulator, thinks he's so fucking smart. He thinks he can manipulate me. An idiot, an asshole. Many expletives were hurled that day. His fury was from the cover alone, since he didn't read the article, bitch, because we know he can't read. I've been on the receiving end of a Trump rage before, when that was a problem shooting the ultimate merger at Trump, Las Vegas. When his temper flares, he cannot hold back, and it's terrifying to watch. If he'd spoken that way to a diplomat or head of state, it would have been disastrous. Around this time on Thursdays, I went to Capitol Hill for meetings at 11 a.m., and then a special invitation-only Bible study at noon at a very private, non-partisan prayer gathering, led by the Senate chaplain, Rear Admiral Barry Black. Other participants were Senators Kirsten Gillibrand, Cory Booker, John Toon, Tim Capper, former Senator Blanche Lincoln, and Tim Scott. Those weekly sessions were key to keeping me spiritually grounded and helped me stay steady in an unrelenting storm. So basically, motherfuckers had to go to church to get to work. On day 17, I convinced ranks to allow me to work the Department of State to take a delegation to Haiti for the inauguration of Jovenel Moïse. When I told Donald J. Trump that I would be gone for a couple of days, he asked me, "Why did you choose that shitty country as your first foreign trip? You should have waited until the confirmations were done and gone to Scotland and played golf at his course in Turnberry." So basically he's saying, bitch, why you want to visit the black people? You should have waited to go visit my people in Scotland, bitch. Furthermore, I admonished him for putting down Haiti and explained all that the country had been through recently. I also reminded him of all the promises he had made to the Haitian community during the campaign and that we had to deliver on our commitment to help build up Haiti. He didn't remember. He drew a blank. I reminded him that he talked about Haiti constantly during the campaign, especially in Miami, where Trump met with the Haitian American community members 3 or 4 times. See, bitch, he cared at that time because he needed votes, bitch. Now that he got the seat, he don't give a fuck about no Haiti. He don't care about no Haiti. He fuck Haiti. She don't be getting it. Damn, yo. On day 18, Jeff Sessions, who Trump called Benjamin Button behind his back. One thing about Trump, his nicknames, bitch, be on point. Benjamin Button, that motherfucker do look like Benjamin Button, no shade though. Was confirmed as Attorney General, despite the Democrats attempting to stop it. Led by the Congressional Black Caucus and most vocally Senator Al Franken. The irony of his confirmation during Black History Month was not lost on me. My policy with Sessions was to be polite, but keep a distance. That's what you do as an African-American professional in this country. If every black person quit his or her job because someone in the workplace was racist, not many of us would be employed. No shade. No shade. That's a word. Despite their racist reputations, I was cordial with Steve Bannon, formerly of the anti-immigration alt-right Breitbart News, and Stephen Miller, a Sessions protege, the writer of high school and college essays that rallied against minorities. Unlike those alleged racists, Sessions had a long, well-documented track record of offensive policies, voting twice against including sexual orientation in the definition of a hate crime, saying that the NAACP and the ACLU were un-American and communist-inspired, pushing for an English-only government, and allegedly using the N-word repeatedly, to mention a few. On day 20, I flew to New York on Air Force 2 with Vice President Mike Pence and his wife Karen to attend the Henry O. Philipper Dinner in honor of the first African American to graduate from the United States Military Academy at West Point. Now, this is sad that in the mid-2010s, we're still doing shit like the first African American to graduate from West. We still doing this first shit as black people. We still doing that. After this time with VP Pence, I became troubled about him. The first thing I noticed was that people on his staff kept slipping up and calling him president. accidentally sometimes. Jokingly, in private, I heard people say things like, when we're in charge, or once you become president. I asked him explicitly if he had any ambitions for the highest office after Donald completed his 2 terms. But she just assumed that he gonna get these 2 terms. Pence said, 2 terms? You think 2 terms? That's good. I like the way you think, Omarosa. I'm here to serve the president. I'm only loyal to the president. See, he know Omarosa was Trump homegirl. So he already know, bitch, I need to tread lightly about this bitch. We already know she got tapes and shit. She like to record. Okay? So I'm going to tell this bitch whatever she want to hear. His walking in lockstep with the president, eerily beaming glances, and mindless compliance would, in good time, be a source of late-night comedy and political memes. Several months later, conservative columnist George Will call Pence a sycophant poodle. I suspected that Pence was just biding his time, looking the part of the perfect VP until Trump resigned, was impeached, or served his term, which we all know. On day 31, February 21st, I arranged for the president to visit the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture on Constitution Avenue. Now, for those of you that aren't from around the area in DC or in Baltimore or in this region, you gotta get tickets to go to this museum. It's fucking like a whole thing. Like, you gotta wait in line, bitch. It's given, we gotta go multiple days to see floors. They got Michael Jackson shit in there, Diana Ross, Oprah, bitch. It's giving life. But you should check it out sometime. This was the first presidential trip that I planned start to finish. It involved a back-breaking amount of logistics, 62 people, including the president, Reince Priebus, Ivanka Trump, Keith Schiller, the physician to the president, Ronnie Jackson. Remember Ronnie? Sean Spicer, Stephen Miller, Ben Carson, stupid ass, and his entire family. Okay? All into a motorcade of 11 vehicles to leave the south portico of the White House. Okay? To make that drive, Secret Service had to organize the shutting down of every street between the 2 locations. I briefed Donald the day before the event. I briefed him before we left the White House. I briefed him when we arrived at the museum. Even as we were walking and touring, I gave him little lines to say for his short remarks. I requested for the White House Communications Agency to supply a teleprompter, which they couldn't because of time constraints. So this bitch did everything. Like, she was like trying to get him together so bad. I can't wait to read this shit. Donald read his remarks from a piece of paper, which didn't play so well, but at least it was better than the Frederick Douglass gaffe. As the lead staffer on the event, I didn't leave Donald's side and tickled off every instruction, movement, and introduction that had been painstakingly mapped and planned for weeks. Everything went off without a hitch, except for the Today Show interview that I set up on site at the museum. It was Trump's first one-on-one interview with a black reporter since becoming president. Although Craig Melvin had submitted topics in advance, Donald didn't stick to the script again. When President Trump and Craig Melvin ventured into uncharted territory, I started to make wrap it up signals. So she was like, bitch, cut, it's over, done. Like, just picture Donald in this interview and the shit's going okay, and then it started to go left, and then Omarosa like, cut it, bitch, move. Like, this shit was probably hilarious. Donald had something up his sleeve too. He started talking about recent attacks on Jewish centers. They've been in the news, and his hostile rhetoric had been blamed for the rise in anti-Semitic vandalism and crimes. I kept thinking, why is he talking about anti-Semitism at the National Museum of African American History and Culture? No shade, bitch. I want to know too. I was relieved as we headed for the motorcade. Donald was impressed. He said, good job, kiddo. Good event. Day 40, I teamed up with the domestic policy team to invite 75 presidents of historically black colleges and universities to meet with the White House senior staff, Secretary Betsy DeVos and VP Mike Pence. I hoped that the president might do a drive-by and had checked in to ask about his availability. Jared Kushner called back and said, bring the group over. The invitation was a surprise, and I asked them if they'd like to go over to the West Wing. It was an offer, not a requirement. They all said yes, and our massive group made the 5-minute walk, flanked by Secret Service. Once in the Roosevelt Room, I asked again if they wanted to come. If not, they could stay in the Roosevelt Room and talk to some of the senior advisors. All of them accepted. They had a few minutes to shake hands with the president. Trump suggested a photo, and the president's photographer had to climb up a ladder to get the whole group. Then the press pool entered and started taking pictures as well. Kellyanne wanted to snap pictures of the group too and decided to stand on the couch to get her shot. The press took a photo of Kellyanne kneeling on the couch after taking her picture. The next day, the headline was about Kellyanne barefoot in the Oval Office and not about the historic meeting with the HBCU presidents in the Oval Office. It was historic because in his 8 years in office, Obama had never invited all the presidents to the White House. But that point was lost because of Kellyanne. This time, I've been tackled by my own teammate at the 1-yard line. Now, okay, Obama never invited all the presidents. But Obama was busy, bitch. He was actually doing real shit. And I'm not defending him, but like, damn, bitch, shade. Shade much. This same day, Trump signed an executive order that I pushed for since day one. The presidential executive order on the White House initiative to promote excellence and innovation at historically black colleges and universities. The executive order was important, as it would move the initiative for HBCUs from the Department of Education to the White House. Additionally, we could pursue funding for the colleges throughout the private sector. The Thurgood Marshall College Fund, as well as the National Association for Equal Opportunity, and the United Negro College Fund, that's the people that do the telethons, bitch, I watch it all the time, endorsed the executive order and called for an increase in the federal budget for HBCUs. I'd attended 2 HBCUs, Central State University and Howard University. I also attended Payne Theological Seminary before the death of my fiance, Michael Clark Duncan. Now, for those of you who don't know or didn't remember, Omarosa was engaged to Michael Clark Duncan from the Green Mile. You know, big motherfucker, like crazy in all the films and shit. Nice guy, but she was engaged to him before her new husband. That executive order was my top policy priority within the first 40 days of the administration. Donald supported me in my efforts. We got it done in just the nick of time. On the 28th of February, he had reportedly said that funding for HBCUs was one of his priorities, and he was proving that. Also on that day, Donald made his first major speech, the joint address to Congress. I worked with speechwriter Stephen Miller behind the scenes to get diversity acknowledgments into it, starting with the first line. Tonight, as we mark the conclusion of our celebration of Black History Month, we are reminded of our nation's path towards civil rights and the work that still remains to be done. Later on, he talked about the executive order and about working to ensure government. Okay, bitch, who cares? Okay. One thing that I found disturbing during the address to the joint session of Congress was how Mike Pence gazed worshipfully at the back of Trump's head for an hour straight. Everyone in the senior staff thought that Mike Pence was a Stepford wife. It seemed obvious that he was too perfect to be genuine, and that's no shade. When a bitch is too nice or too helpful, you gotta look out for that. And that's no shade, that's facts. I'm from Baltimore City. Nobody is that nice every day. I don't give a fuck where they come from. They can come from Candyland, bitch. One day you're gonna wake up with a ruffled feather, okay? If someone looked at you that way, you'd be disturbed and think about a restraining order. But Trump was not normal, and he liked Pence's apparent worship of him so much that they established a weekly lunch together. Perhaps his attraction to Pence was another sign of his loneliness. No one else in his life gazed at him with such adoration. Certainly not his wife anymore. Maybe Ivanka. Shade, bitch. Critics praised Donald for being presidential in his delivery of the speech, which was the objective. Some also noted that he read off the teleprompters very, very slowly. I knew from the Apprentice days that Donald is not a big reader. While working with him side by side on my own briefings, I come to understand he read at 8th or 9th grade level. And that's where we're going to sign off. Bitch. We have a president in the White House that doesn't even read on the level of a high school graduate, bitch. This is your president. So let's unpack this. So far, what we know is Donald can't read. Kellyanne Conway like to take pictures. They don't know how to work light switches. They don't have enough staff. They basically need a presidential for dummies book. Maybe I need to start on one of those. What y'all think? But anyway, we'll reconvene on Thursday nights. Thursday nights, we will read the chapter The Fall on Thursday. And then our final reading of this book will be the epilogue. And I want y'all to stay tuned because we have something special in store for that. But I want you guys to make sure that you follow me on Instagram at GODDM. Once again, that's GODDM as in Mike on Instagram. Also, too, if you aren't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe to the Secretary of Shade YouTube page. Cabinet members, we are at over 6,000 strong in just a week. I can't thank you guys enough. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe so you can be up to date. My official podcast and visual podcast is launching next Tuesday, which I am very excited about. So it's 1 week from now. Secretary of Shade, we got some great things in store that I hope you guys enjoy. We got some special surprises. Make sure you subscribe. Once again, thank you guys for all of your kind words, donations, everything. I appreciate it, and I love you all dearly. Let's go on this ride together. We have a lot of work to do. I will be going to the ALC next month, the Congressional Black Caucus convention next month. So I'll be a fly on the wall for that, letting you guys know how shit really works. And next week we're going to start Miss April Ryan's book, Under Fire, and see what she has to say. I'm going to do a little backstory to catch us up. But at the end of the day, thank you. Y'all be blessed. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Peace and love. And I'll see you guys soon. Thursday, The Fall. Have a good one.